Hello everyone and welcome. My nickname is Frosty. How has your week been? It's been really awesome for me and I'm really excited about the new codex for Drukhari. And in that case, this is the video of me painting the Drukhari Venom. I'm trying out different techniques for this, and where there are chances, I try to do NMM gold on the parts like the canopy thing, that mirror, the window. So let's get on it right away. So I started priming my models. I have two unpainted Venoms, by the way. So what I did is I straight away started with the Surface Primer Black by Vallejo, which is now my favorite primer to use rather than like the spray can and all that. And I use the Vallejo airbrush thinner, just a little bit of it, just to make sure that it's not clogging, and mix the Vallejo Surface Primer Black with it. I tried going with like 2 or 3 thin coats of black surface primer on it, not to clog out too much details, especially the panel linings, because I'm going to edge highlight the area. I then base coat with an airbrush or using the Incubi Darkness on the surfaces as a base coat, and I started to highlight the reflection points on certain top corners of the area and on the sides by mixing the Incubi Darkness with white surface primer, just a little bit of it, and I start to highlight using the airbrush. First thing I realized after looking at it is that the Incubi Darkness surface is a little bit too shiny and I don't really like how it turns out. So what I did is I reprime it again with black Vallejo surface primer, and at this point of time I didn't realize that the details, the panel lines have already been clogged too much, and that results in a problem of me when I tried to do the edge highlight on some of the area. At that point of time, it's already too late to reverse what I have done, but yeah, I just kept going onto it. So now that I have reprimed it with black surface primer, I start to highlight it again with the mixture of Incubi Darkness and white surface primer. So the ratio of the white surface primer is just a little bit. It's about like 5 drops of Incubi Darkness to about 1 or 1.5 part of the white surface primer from Vallejo. I use a very cheap synthetic brush to mix around the mixture of the Incubi Darkness and white on the airbrush pot itself. So I keep stirring and I put a little bit of airbrush thinner and I keep mixing it in there just to make sure that there's no clogging happening. For the airbrush itself, I'm using the Harder and Steinbeck Infinity 0.4 on one airbrush, and then the other one is Harder and Steinbeck Infinity version 2 0.15 mm. So that 0.4 is to be used as the base coat because of the surface area and it doesn't clog as much, and 0.5 is for detailing. I just got that airbrush like yesterday or last 2 days, and yeah, I really like 0.15 as compared to 0.2 because of how much control I can get using the 0.15. I love it. So now comes the part where I edge highlight the panel lines, areas and everything. So what I did is I used Sotek Green by Citadel Paints and I started putting it on my wet palette. After putting on my white palette, I also used my secret sauce, which is the Vallejo Airbrush Flow Improver, and that is the magic that allows me to edge highlight for much longer time than as if I'm thinning my paint using just water. That's a very good technique I found on Reddit. It really helps me a lot. So Sotek Green, I also mixed it up with Ivory by Vallejo, and then I put the airbrush flow improver into the mixture. So I just put like maybe 2 parts Ivory to 3 parts or 4 parts Sotek Green, maybe it's 50-50 to get like a brighter tone on the highlights. So I started edge highlighting it here and there And in this part is where I realized that I have clogged up too much of the detail by priming and basing it about, I think that's a total of about 7 times. So what I did is I just tried my very best to like get a good highlight and not too messy, but it still ended up being messy. But I'm not painting for competition, so yeah, that's fine with me. I used purple and pink of this color from Vallejo to start basing the knifey pointy part at the end of the Venom. So I tried to do 2 base coats, very thin coats, just adding it with water, and then a base with that purple on this pointy part. While the purple base coat is drying up, I took the time to highlight some of the edges using my brush and a mixture of the Zotac green and ivory with airbrush flow improver. So I started with the left side of the wing to kind of mimic the highlight similar to what the box art looks like. Then I also did the same on the center part and the other side of the wing. Continuing back to the part of the purple edges pointy area thingy, I start using pure pink color from Model Color by Vallejo and start to highlight the reflection points. Take note, at this time I am using Vallejo Flow Improver for most of my mixing, just to make sure that my brush does not dry up too fast and I have to press harder to make the paint stick onto the surfaces. It really helps. I love this new technique. So after highlighting the edges on the other side of the wing, I also tried using like another technique. I kind of do some shading kind of movement, and on the other side I just like slap the paint in one lines, very quite thick coat of the pink color, and I just want to see how it works and which one would be most efficient technique for me to try out the next time. As slowly after putting on the highlights, I started mixing back the Vallejo violet red to the Vallejo pink, slowly put in like not really a glaze consistency, a bit thicker than glaze, and I started to like blend around the outer highlights of the pink to make the effect more pronounced and not as sketchy as if I'm just sketching the pink color. Not sure if I explained that correctly, but yeah, that's what I did. And I also start playing around with this technique that I have just learned very recently. Instead of using like pure ivory, I am now starting to use pure ice yellow, and it really helps a lot with increasing the luminosity and contrast of the outer highlight edges to make it seem like the area on the other side are much brighter than the below part. Also, I am not really sure if I explained this correctly. I don't have the correct word to describe what I'm doing. But yeah, also if you notice when you are looking at the place where the witch in the box photo are standing on, I've also started like slapping on Retributor Gold by Citadel, very thin coats of gold, mixing with the Flow Improver, and I'm not sure if I actually recorded a video footage of me base coating that, but it's not really that important because it's basically just me slapping on the gold color on that floor stepping brass gold color thingy. Now comes the part where I'm painting the window area, window canopy. I'm not sure what it's called, but yeah, before recording this video I was just trying out what's the correct reflection point is going to look like, but basically I just went along with it and I think yeah, it looks quite good. I basically just use a very basic thin down mixture of pink and some water, and I use the size 1 Winsor & Newton brush, just slap some paint, not really worrying about whether the blending is good yet or not. And yeah, before recording a video I thought yeah, it looks fine, it's not good, it's not bad, so I just went along with it and I started mixing the pink Vallejo color and start mixing ice yellow, and then as the highlight, the brighter point goes on, I start going to pure ice yellow, and then on the final center part where I want it to look very bright, the brightest, I use ivory. So those are quite pretty thin coats of paint, so whenever I highlight the ice yellow or ivory, it's not too obvious looking. Now for the lower parts of the canopy window thingy, I want it to look a little different than the other areas of the Venom itself. So for the deeper recesses part where the light reflection points are not bright, I use Ashen Grey instead of just leaving it at black. So I started blending it from like Ashen Grey mixing with pink and all that, and also for the very dark recesses I try to put Abaddon Black to give kind of shadowy effect. And also there's this like pop-up layer of the window. I did the NMM gold, and I kind of did that impromptu because I actually intend to just use Retributor gold because of that stepping place thingy. And I realized when I put like gold as compared to the, when I like look at the contrast compared to the window, it doesn't fit as much. So I kind of did impromptu with it, and so I started doing mixing Montfang brown as the base of the gold, and start mixing the Montfang brown with Everland Sunset like 50-50, and start highlighting the reflection points. I really have no idea what kind of reflection point I'm doing right here, but it kind of makes sense in the end, I think. So yeah, Everland Sunset, and then pure Everland Sunset, and also my new favorite color again, the ice yellow. And also for the edge highlight on that gold trim, I used ice yellow and ivory at the very brightest point. And now for the final part of the Venom are the gemstones. I first used a mixture of the Vallejo model colored deep green with Abaddon Black to kind of base the gemstone a bit darker, and then I started with the shading part for using the deep green color on the outer edges of the gemstone. I use a glazing effect, glazing technique on this gemstone, because like sketching it doesn't really work as well. And I also used wet blending effect. I think this is what wet blending is. And at some point I've also tried like two point brush method thing, where I actually put like a brighter color of the paint on the most part of the brush, and I dab a little bit of the darker green color, and so it kind of end up being blended in something like that. I'm sorry guys, I don't really know the best way to describe what I'm doing. Only if I know what the technique is called, then I can explain properly. So yeah, dark deep green Vallejo model color as the first reflection highlight, and slowly I started adding the yellow green model color by Vallejo to get the brighter highlight point, and also finally my favorite color using the ice yellow again by Vallejo. After doing all the highlights, I finally decide to use the polyurethane gloss varnish to give kind of shiny effect on the gemstone. And this is what it turns out. So guys, what do you think? Is it very cool looking, or is it very not cool looking? I kind of like this Venom compared to my other previous Venoms that I painted. I think I put a little more work on this one than the other ones. And one more thing is, I shall not forget that the underside of the Venom also has to be painted, but that's the part that not a lot of people are looking at, so I'm not really going to bother that much. Maybe next time when I look at the codex for the Drukhari. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. This has been Frosty. I'll see you next time. Please like and subscribe.